If you've been following automotive news in recent days, you may have noticed a kind of joined news piece, which a lot of outlets and individuals have been running with and kind of flapping about, to be honest, regarding both Recaro and BBS going bankrupt. It's a great headline, it attracts a lot of attention, but the problem is a lot of these places seem to be blowing it way out of proportion, and the problem is that a lot of people are not really reading deep enough to know the actual truth of the matter. So for those who have maybe believed this, haven't looked deeper, let's give you the actual rundown of what you need to know. First things first, it's kind of true, but it actually also isn't. It's not true in as much as not really affecting you in the way that you would think if you want to purchase Recaro or BBS products, because, ironically, in a very similar way between these two different companies, it's actually only a part of the company, if you will, that's gone insolvent and filed for insolvency or bankruptcy, as we often refer to it, not the company as a whole. And that is a massive difference. Now, first of all, let's talk Recaro. They announced an insolvency on a particular part of their company. They have over 2,500 employees worldwide, and incidentally, for both of these occasions, I've linked to some really good articles, both from the Drive and Competition Motorsport regarding these two individual ones. Competition Motorsport about BBS, and the Drive about the Recaro situation. Now, out of those 2,500 plus employees, 425 or so are involved in the automotive side. They also make gaming chairs, aviation chairs, office chairs even. In particular, this is affecting the automotive end of things. And even though they wouldn't name names for obvious reasons, this is a combination of two things that they've cited as the cause. One is just difficult financial times with rising costs, of course, people buying less of something that's very expensive in harder financial times, something that maybe they don't necessarily need to buy, a non-essential purchase. Perhaps just as crucially, if not more so, losing a very, very large contract with an unnamed entity, let's call it. Now, there has been some speculation as to who it could be, and on the Drive itself, they speculate as far as it possibly being Volkswagen, with a number of different models in their mostly performance end of the range, unsurprisingly for the Recaro connection, being discontinued. It would make sense. It doesn't mean it is Volkswagen, but it could be. So in particular, the actual part of Recaro which is going under, at least for the moment, is actually Recaro Automotive GmbH. Based, of course, as the name would suggest, in Germany. That is the particular part of Recaro which is filing for insolvency. And just to reiterate, it has no bearing whatsoever on the other aspects of their business. Now, that being said, of course, we still hope, or at least I do, and I'm sure many of you do as well, that those who are going to be affected by this find other work. Certainly their talents deserve to find other work if they've been doing good work at Recaro, which I'm sure they have been. So hopefully that clears things up for those who are worried about the Recaro side of things. Yes, an aspect of it is going away, but Recaro as a brand is not. Secondly, as far as BBS goes, this one gets a little bit more complex in terms of who owns what, but it's kind of the same situation, for want of a better explanation. To put it simply, it's a German version again that's kind of going away, but there are a number of different locations, again, a number of different ways really of splitting up the BBS brand. You've got BBS America, Japan, they've got the Motorsport GmbH, Autotechnik GmbH, and in particular, it's that Autotechnik version of BBS in Germany once again, which was renamed Autotechnik GmbH rather than BBS Automotive GmbH originally, owned incidentally by a fast food company, which is a weird connection, but the ISH group in particular is what they're called. That is the one which is actually filing again for bankruptcy. Not BBS Japan, not BBS North America, not BBS as a whole, specifically that wing. In terms of what that wing actually means, well, they've been co-owned for 10 years anyway, so this isn't really like a new thing. In terms of what this actually means though, well, BBS Japan already handled the forged wheels and the motorsport side of things. So the juicy stuff, in other words. In particular, the GmbH Autotechnik side of BBS in Germany handled the cast wheels. So for those who don't know the difference, cast is essentially pouring liquid metal into a mold or cast, whereas forging it is heating up the metal and bending it. And again, to simplify that, casting something breaks up the line of the metal, if you will. Imagine, for example, if you were to cut a tree, you can see the grain of the wood, it all travels in one direction. Metal has a very similar thing. If you melt the metal and cast it again, you lose some of that intrinsic strength because you've melted it down, and now it's all facing in different directions. The grain of the metal, if you want to think of it that way. Forging it is better because you're heating the metal where it already has that grain and bending it into a new shape, so you still keep a lot more of that structure. And the real finest way of having metal production, if you can, is billet, which is you get a nice big old block and cut cut it straight out. You don't heat it, you don't bend it. That's the purest, most expensive way of doing it. Incidentally, when it comes to this, the cheaper wheel, if you will, the not so good side, is the one that's actually going under. So it's not the worst thing in the world in either case. Again, we feel for the people who are going to be potentially losing jobs because of this. Hopefully they will find jobs in different sectors, perhaps even a similar sector but for a different brand, and who knows what could happen in the future. Companies file for bankruptcy all the time and get rescued, get changed into different things, and again, with the companies as a whole still being around, who knows what could happen in the future. Hopefully this clears up some of the misconceptions and misinformation that's floating around about these two things though, and if nothing else, if you'd never even heard of it, hopefully it helps to fill you in on the automotive news of the day. But of course, stick around for more here on the channel. Check out the automotive news playlist if you're curious to hear more, and for now, thanks for watching.